So imagine this. You're stuck in a loveless family. Your life feels like one big invisible blur. And then, bam! You accidentally bump into a ruthless billionaire who offers you a fake marriage, just to get his mother off his back. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Well, for Elsie Hart, it might just be the best mistake she's ever made. Get ready for Marrying Mr. Menace, a romance comedy with a twist of deep emotion, jealousy, and so many plot twists. It starts fake, but what happens when fake starts getting a little too real? Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Every story here is short but meaningful, crafted to inspire, connect, and maybe even change the way you see things. So sit back, relax, and let today's story take you somewhere new. Let's begin. There was nothing extraordinary about Elsie Hart. Not her hair, plain brown. Not her eyes, muddy hazel. Not even her smile, which she'd learned to hide by the age of 6 because nobody in her family ever smiled back. Elsie wasn't the black sheep of the Hart family. She was the shadow, the thing that passed silently through rooms, unnoticed, unwanted. While her siblings were bathed in praise, Elsie was the forgotten dinner plate at the table, the afterthought. Her mother once told her, flatly,
"I should have stopped at your sister."
And so she stopped asking for hugs, stopped trying to matter. At 23, Elsie lived in a dingy studio above a laundromat, where the walls smelled like detergent and despair. Her only friend was a succulent named Sir Prickles, and even he was looking a little suicidal lately. But everything changed the day she delivered coffee to him. Romain Evans, heir to the Evans tech empire, a man whose bank account could end world hunger, but whose personality might start a new war. He didn't smile, didn't say thank you, didn't do small talk, foreplay, or second chances. His cologne smelled like thunderstorms and regret, and his eyes, those cold gray daggers, could silence a room just by existing. He was a legend in the business world, a nightmare in the dating world, and the subject of exactly 2.5 million thirst tweets. He also had a mother who was obsessed with seeing him married.
"Before I die, Roman,
She declared dramatically.
you will marry a woman with a soul."
So when Elsie tripped into his office, coffee soaking her cheap blouse and all, Ramon didn't see a clumsy delivery girl. He saw an escape plan.
Marry me.
Elsie blinked.
I think I hallucinated. Could you repeat that? Slower, maybe?
Ramon leaned back, expression as bored as ever.
You, me, a fake marriage. 6 months. You play doting wife. I get my mother off my back. You get money, housing, and freedom from whatever this is.
He gestured vaguely at her life. Elsie glanced down at her discount shoes.
What's the catch?
I don't believe in love or emotional entanglements. I will not tolerate clinginess, romantic expectations, or mood swings. This is business. You're convenient. That's all.
Elsie opened her mouth, then closed it, then asked the only rational question she could think of.
Do I get health insurance?
Ramon Evans didn't waste time. The next morning, a black SUV picked Elsie up from her apartment. Correction, her shoebox. The driver said nothing. The playlist was Batch, and Elsie was 92% sure she was being kidnapped until she saw the penthouse. 12 floors up, entire wall made of glass. Marble floors so shiny she could see her insecurities in them.
I live here now.
She asked, clutching her tote bag like it was her emotional support animal. Ramon handed her a folder labeled contract in all caps.
No cuddling. No public displays of affection unless required. No speaking to the press. No emotional outbursts.
Elsie flipped through the 10-page document.
This feels less like a marriage, and more like joining a cult.
There are worse cults. This one comes with a wardrobe.
He gestured toward a closet the size of her entire apartment. Inside were clothes with price tags that gave her heart palpitations.
You'll need to look the part.
He said,
My mother shops at Gilt, Couture, and the blood of her enemies.
It started with a smile. Just one. Not Romang's. Heaven forbid. But Elsie's. It happened during a charity gala, when Romang whispered something snarky about the gold-plated shrimp skewers. She laughed, and for once, it wasn't the awkward kind. It was warm, real dangerous. Romang noticed. The next warning sign came when they danced. For appearances, of course. Her hand in his arm around her waist. She was light and unsure. He was firm, focused. Somehow, they fit. When the song ended, Romang cleared his throat.
Try not to look so happy. People might think you like me.
Elsie grinned.
I'll try to contain the butterflies.
The real trouble started a week later, during a thunderstorm. Elsie hated storms. Romang found her curled up in the corner of the library, knees to her chest, eyes red. She looked like a ghost trying not to cry. He didn't say anything, just sat beside her in silence. And that silence said more than words. She didn't thank him. He didn't ask why she was afraid. But from that night on, he made sure he was always around when the sky turned gray. Fake was starting to look a lot like something else. Romang caught himself staring at her laugh, at her bare feet on the kitchen tiles, at the way she hummed off-key while brushing her teeth. And Elsie? She began to expect his knock at her door, craved his sarcasm, missed him when he was gone too long. Somewhere along the way, the rules started to blur, and both of them were in more danger than they realized. Not from each other, but from falling in love. It happened accidentally. Well, sort of. Elsie was helping Romang tie his body before another painfully extravagant gala. Their faces were close. Too close. Her breath hitched. His fingers brushed hers. Then the world paused. She looked up at him, eyes wide. He looked down at her, eyes darker than usual. Then he kissed her. It wasn't staged. It wasn't in the contract. It wasn't for show. It was warm, fierce, a little desperate, the kind of kiss that said, I don't want you, but I do. When they pulled apart, Elsie blinked.
So, was that a team-building exercise, or?
Romang, voice gruff.
Forget it happened.
Neither of them did. A few days later, jealousy made its grand entrance. A charming young entrepreneur named Felix Grant joined them at a networking event. He made Elsie laugh. A lot. Romang hated him on sight.
You like him?
He asked flatly on the ride home. Elsie smirked.
Jealous?
No, just curious how low your standards are.
Oh, very low.
She said sweetly.
I married you, didn't I?
He didn't speak the rest of the ride. That night, he kissed her again. And this time, she kissed him back. The news broke in the most awkward way possible. Her mother saw the tabloid headline, Evans's virgin bride, who is Romang's mystery wife. 2 hours later, Elsie had 12 missed calls, 3 angry voicemails, and 1 text from her father that just said, WTH? Romang raised an eyebrow.
Care to explain why your family sounds like the cast of a soap opera?
Elsie groaned.
Because they are. Emotionally, anyway.
What followed was an uncomfortable dinner with the Hearts, where Romain was cold and calculating, and Elsie shrunk into her seat. But when her mother sneered,
You've always been a disappointment, Elsie.
something in Romain snapped. He stood.
Funny. I find her to be extraordinary.
For the first time in her life, someone defended her. Fiercely. Publicly. And that changed everything. For her. For him. And for what they were becoming. Elsie didn't cry after the dinner. She just sat on the rooftop garden, legs dangling off a ledge she didn't intend to jump from, but kind of wanted to pretend she might. Ramon found her there. Of course. Like he always did.
I'm not extraordinary.
She said without looking at him.
You were just angry.
He leaned against the rail, watching the city lights flicker.
I was angry, but I wasn't wrong.
Elsie scoffed.
They're right. I don't belong. Not to them. Not to you. Not anywhere.
Romain turned to her slowly.
You belong exactly where you're wanted, which is here with me.
She looked at him then, really looked, and saw a man who didn't do declarations, who didn't do want. But he wanted her. She was wanted. And that realization was the kind of wreckage she was willing to build a new life from. They didn't define it. They didn't put a label on whatever this was. But Romain started cooking breakfast when she slept in. Elsie started stealing his hoodies like she had a right to them. He let her, no protests. No grunts. She cried in his arms after a nightmare, and he held her like she was glass but didn't break. He confessed that love scared him more than failure. She whispered that failure was all she'd ever been taught to expect. But then came the tests. Ramon's ex, glamorous, sharp-tongued, and everything Elsie wasn't, showed up, flaunting a past Elsie couldn't compete with. She made it clear Ramon was meant for someone, at his level. And Ramon? He didn't deny the history. He didn't push the woman away as quickly as Elsie hoped. Then came the business trip. Ramon left for 2 weeks without a call. Elsie tried to be strong, but the silence chipped away at her. When he returned, she didn't run to greet him.
Did you miss me?
He asked.
I'm not sure I'm allowed to.
She replied. The final test came when Elsie's father fell ill, and she had to return home. Alone. Ramon didn't follow. Not at first. But when she didn't answer his third message, he flew out, showed up at her childhood home, and found her sitting on the porch, eyes tired, soul heavier.
You didn't come.
She said simply.
I didn't know how,
He admitted.
but I'm here now.
They stood there for a moment, quiet, raw. And it was clear. Whatever this was, it wasn't fake anymore. It was everything. And it was time to say it. They didn't talk on the flight home. Romain offered her the window seat. Elsie took it without a word. He didn't press. He never did. Until now. Back in the penthouse, the silence stretched. Elsie dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes, and headed straight for the kitchen. She needed tea, or a lobotomy. Romain followed, leaning against the doorframe like a storm waiting to break.
Elsie,
I'm fine.
She said, yanking open a cabinet with more rage than necessary.
Really? No big deal. My dad might die. But hey, fake wife duties call, right?
Romain stepped forward.
don't.
She turned.
Don't what?
Don't act like I don't care.
Her laugh was brittle.
You don't care, Roman. That was the deal, remember? No feelings. No mess. Just a contract and a closet full of overpriced apologies.
He took another step.
You think I didn't call because I didn't care? That I didn't show up because it was inconvenient?
She shrugged, hugging her arms.
You didn't show up at all.
I didn't know how.
Silence. Then softer, rawer.
I wanted to. God, I wanted to. I sat on a plane for 5 hours, rehearsing what to say to you, and still landed with nothing.
Elsie blinked.
Why?
Ramong's voice cracked. Just slightly.
Because this wasn't supposed to happen.
This.
You.
He paused, then added.
Us.
Elsie's heart stuttered.
I told myself it was fake.
He went on.
That I could control it? That needing you was just a glitch in the system.
He looked up, eyes darker than ever.
But I do need you. And not because of a contract. Not because of convenience. Because your laugh, your stubbornness, your stupid cactus with the suicidal lean. You made me want things I was never supposed to want.
Her voice trembled.
So what are you saying?
Ramang exhaled.
I'm saying I love you, Elsie.
The room spun.
You don't have to say it back.
He added quickly.
You don't owe me anything. But I needed you to know. Before I lose you for real.
She stared at him, every part of her shaking. Then with a soft, broken laugh, she crossed the room and stood toe-to-toe with him.
Roman Evans.
She whispered.
You absolute idiot.
Then she kissed him. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was fire meeting gasoline. It was every unspoken word, every missed call, every almost that finally became a yes. When they finally broke apart, Elsie rested her forehead against his.
I love you too.
She murmured.
You magnificent, emotionally stunted menace.
His laugh rumbled low in his chest, arms tightening around her like a promise. This wasn't the end of the story. It was just the start of a real one. Loving Ramon Evans was one thing. Living with him after the confession was another. He didn't become a different man overnight. He still glared at baristas who got his order wrong. Still answered phone calls in the middle of dinner. Still hated mornings and small talk. And anything remotely resembling emotional vulnerability. But now, he also kissed her on the forehead before meetings. Brought home pastries with her favorite fillings even way. He pretended not to know what those were. Left post-it notes that said things like, "Don't forget your keys. Also, I miss you." Elsie's heart was a mess of contradictions. Because with every sweet gesture, every quiet moment, she loved him more. Which made the fight inevitable. It started over nothing. A forgotten dinner reservation. But it spiraled.
I'm not one of your assistants, Roman. You don't get to pencil me in when it's convenient.
I'm trying to build an empire, Elsie. I can't drop everything because you feel neglected.
She flinched.
You think I'm needy?
No, I think I'm failing. And I don't know how not to.
The room pulsed with silence. Then he walked out. And for the first time since their fake marriage began, he didn't come back that night. Elsie didn't cry. Not immediately. She threw herself into work, cleaned every inch of the penthouse, reorganized the bookshelves by genre and emotional damage, talked to Sir Prickles like he had answers. Ramon stayed at a hotel. She knew because she checked. Once, okay, 3 times. And still, no calls, no text, just the echo of what they almost had. But then came the knock on the door. Ramang Hermust, eyes tired, a bouquet in one hand and a box of cereal in the other.
You hate flowers.
He said quietly.
But you always eat this when you're sad.
She took the cereal box, said nothing.
I'm sorry.
He added,
For yelling. For leaving. For forgetting that love means showing up. Even when I'm scared.
She didn't melt immediately, but she let him in. Let him sit with her. Let him eat cereal straight from the box. And slowly, carefully, they fixed it. Not with grand gestures, but with presence and cereal. The world still thought their marriage was a PR stunt, but they didn't care anymore. Elsie started sketching again. Romain started sleeping better. They started dreaming out loud about vacations, real anniversaries, maybe even a cat. Romain's mother threw them a second wedding. This time, Elsie wore sneakers under her gown, and Romain actually smiled in the photos. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. And after a lifetime of being invisible, Elsie was finally seen, loved, chosen. Not because she was convenient, but because she was impossible not to love. The billionaire who didn't believe in marriage had fallen headfirst into it. And the girl no one wanted had become the heart of someone's everything. Not a bad plot twist, all things considered. So, what do you think? Could you fall for someone in a fake marriage? Or maybe you've already found your Romain Evans in unexpected places. The journey from invisible to unforgettable isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. Let me know your thoughts. Do you believe in love that starts out fake but ends up real? Or are you more about keeping things straight to the point? Drop a comment below and share your own love story or marriage contract fantasy. Because in the end, we all deserve our happily ever after, just like them.